Donald Trump has officially isolated America from Canada. He made a series of posts today because Canada posted an ad of Ronald Reagan saying he was against tariffs and trade wars. And it was his actual voice from things he actually said. However, here's what Trump had to say about it. The Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I'm not sure what type of economy Trump is trying to have where we're isolated from the entire world, but we all watched A Bug's Life. And we used to have a free trade agreement with Canada and Mexico because we were all better together for it. Nobody was stepping on anybody to benefit. Everybody benefited from having free trade. Then came along Donald Trump, who wanted to step on them and grab them by their throats because he thought he had an advantage. And now we're being ignored by China and we're being ignored by Canada. And everybody else is choosing new trade partners. This is going to have very long-lasting effects. I'm not just talking 4 to 8 years. Trump has screwed us up economically for many, many years to come in the future because he has shown these countries that America is not to be trusted, mainly under him, but it's going to be really hard to undo this damage this time. The same way Joe Biden undid his damage after COVID. Secondly, that was a very real commercial featuring Ronald Reagan's voice. Let's go to that video to see what Trump was so angry about.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
I mean, this is basically economics 101. But when you fire all the qualified professionals and everybody that's left is just a loyalist who doesn't know what they're doing, we arrive at where we are today. And Canada's own prime minister said he plans to double his country's exports to the countries outside the US because of the threat imposed by Trump's tariff. And Donald Trump, like a man-child, got exposed by his own administration. White House officials said Trump's reaction was a culmination of the administration's long pent-up frustration about Canada's strategy and trade talk. What do you mean their strategy? You mean their ability to work together and want to cooperate so we both succeed? Right, we're talking about the guy that bankrupted 7 businesses because he thinks the only way to run a business is to have leverage over somebody and stomp them into the dirt as you gain. The same way he's doing that to the citizens of his own country and his political adversaries as he sicks the DOJ on them, looking for anything to arrest them for when the only person committing arrestable crimes is Donald Trump. Now, Ronald Reagan had more to say about Donald Trump's failures because Ronald Reagan actually listened to the economist experts and actually looked at past history. This is why we rely on taxes and not tariffs, because they didn't work. Let's see what Ronald Reagan himself had to say about this. This is the original video.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets.
i.e. our farmers and small businesses.
And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity.
We are currently living through everything he's saying right now in this video.
Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. Well, I've never forgotten those jobs.
This man just called out Donald Trump's entire game plan. He called out the oligarchy, special interest groups that do not mind that 5 million Americans are losing their jobs. Because that is the only thing that Donald Trump cares about, is other billionaires that will make him richer. So how many times, MAGA, does Trump have to show you and tell you he does not care about you? The government is shut down and he does not care. He is building a ballroom right now. The only person he's negotiating with is the special interest groups looking for donations for his ballroom. The majority of small businesses and farmers did not stand a chance once Donald Trump got elected again. Because if Trump cannot benefit from you, you are nothing to him. And you're only something as long as you are useful. Which is probably why he ended up backstabbing Elon. Because he was making more from his oil friends than Elon's electric cars. I mean, this was a lesson we learned back in the 1930s. Donald Trump is so far behind of his predecessors. So it's no wonder he thinks he's in competition with all these presidents in the past. I mean, how do you undo the accomplishments of Ronald Reagan? That shouldn't be physically possible. And while 99% of Americans beg Trump, please stop this, him and all of his friends get richer and say, it's too late, Project 2025. And can you believe Donald Trump was ready to ruin us economically because he didn't like a commercial ad, which was true? This guy is so uneducated, he actually believed this wasn't a real video from Ronald Reagan. Or maybe he did know and he's lying as usual to MAGA, because he doesn't think the rest of the 70% of normal Americans matter, because he thinks he's the president of MAGA and not the United States. And Trump's #1 game plan is sticking together no matter how wrong we sound, because after Trump says something stupid that's blatantly false, all his little lackeys start to repeat it like a parrot on the news stations, as if they were given the order a long time ago to just nod and agree. And here we see that happening right here. Let's take a look at this video.
Announced all trade talks with Canada have been called off because of an alleged fake ad that showed Ronald Reagan bad-mouthing tariffs. Okay, the president's angry about this. He immediately just said, no more talks with Canada. But where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, the president, I'm sure, has his reasons. There have been a lot of talks with Canada. I've been involved in some of them. And I think the president, probably more than anything, is frustrated with the progress that he's making with Canada. And sometimes when you're frustrated, a timeout is the right call. And the president's saying no talks with Canada. I would guess that at some point between now and the end of his term, he'll talk to Canada again. But yes, right now, I think there's been frustration with the behavior of the Canadians, the demeanor of the Canadians, the positions of the Canadians.
And they always laugh as they lie in everybody's faces. I also find it extremely disingenuous of Fox to show us all these stocks as if the economy is booming and these billionaires aren't getting richer while the rest of America suffers. You notice they're solely and only on Fox, right? If you want to be lied to all day, just tune in to Fox. I wonder who's gonna cut us off next from trade. China's out, Canada's out, who's next? Mexico? If you think these other countries' leaders aren't already in talks behind closed doors on how they're going to do it without America, then it's really time to lock in for these midterms and get this guy out of office before it is too late. Because not only are we dealing with deployments of the military in our own city and ICE Nazis being granted federal immunity by Stephen Miller, Trump's right-hand man, but Trump has ruined our trade relationships so much that Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney said it's just not possible globally to work with America anymore. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
All right, good morning. Look, for months we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that that policy has fundamentally changed from the policy in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. And it's a situation where the United States has tariffs against every one of their trading partners to different degrees. And it's in that context that our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy, and a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries. Now, what we can control, absolutely, is how we build here at home. And that's the focus of Budget 2025, generational investment here in Canada. And what we can also control, or at least heavily influence, is developing new partnerships and opportunities, including with the economic giants of Asia, which is the focus of this trip.
And there you have it, new economic relationship and opportunities with the giants. These other countries are already in talks on how they're going to do it without America, and they're doing it. And as these other leaders show maturity, calm, critical thinking, and not responding to Trump's aggression with more aggression, Trump loses his everlasting mind. This is what our leader had to say. Canada cheated and got caught. They fraudulently took a big buy in saying that Ronald Reagan does not like tariffs when he actually loved tariffs for our country and its national security. Canada is trying to illegally influence the United States Supreme Court in one of the most important rulings of the history of our country. Canada has long cheated on tariffs, charging our farmers as much as 400%. Now they and other countries can't take advantage of the U.S. any longer. Thank you to the Ronald Reagan Foundation for exposing this fraud. Make America great again. I don't know if there's any coming back from this. He left the door open and Trump still burned every single bridge available, because we all know Trump is a my way or the highway type of guy. And through this economic depression that we're slowly swinging into, Trump's family is not going to suffer the same way the average American is. And if you ask me, this is the biggest con the world's ever seen. It's almost as if Trump wants America to go bankrupt so he can get stocks on the dollar, which sounds so insane, but Warren Buffett sure got a lot richer in that 2008 market crash. We were in a recession. So why would Trump repeat tariffs from the 1930s that threw us into the Great Depression? Project 2025 replaced the qualified professionals with unqualified loyalists, and this is the result of that. And they're not done there either. Not only are they ruining the country on the outside, but they're also ruining the country on the inside, because Stephen Miller just went on TV and said that ICE has federal immunity to do their job, which apparently is just harassing and illegally detaining Americans and assaulting them. I'm sure many people have seen those videos of them walking up to random civilians standing there on the sidewalk and pepper spraying them in the face. Let's take a look at Stephen Miller's declaration of federal immunity for the ICE Nazis.
J.B. Pritzker could be arrested. Let's talk about your willingness and under what federal authority do you arrest a sitting governor? I understand the supremacy clause. I understand interference with a federal officer. Tell me how it works that he would make himself susceptible to being arrested.
Well, the answer I'm about to give doesn't only apply to Governor Pritzker. It applies to any state official, any local official, anybody who's operating in an official capacity who conspires or engages in activity that unlawfully impedes federal law enforcement conducting their duties. So if you engage in a criminal conspiracy to obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws, or to unlawfully order your own police officers or your own officials to try to interfere with ICE officers or even to arrest ICE officers, you're engaged in criminal activity. Different kinds of crimes would apply. There's obstruction of justice. There is harboring illegal aliens. There is impeding the enforcement of our immigration laws. And then as you get up the scale of behavior, you obviously get into seditious conspiracy charges, depending on the conduct, and many other offenses. So again, it depends on the conduct. It depends on what is taking place. But what we need to reassure, a couple points. To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. And the Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross that line into obstruction into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice.
Sicking the DOJ on your political adversaries, ICE having federal immunity to abuse Americans, to do whatever they want and face no consequences. Wasn't that in Project 2025? And just because Stephen Miller says they have federal immunity doesn't make it law. You can't just say things and accept them as true. But what he is saying is he will back them up. Trump will pardon them within his limits if they were to get arrested. What's so insane about this is they are impersonating military officials. Why are they in military gear? And just today there was people dressed up as ICE agents at somebody's door in the very early morning and they had masks on. They entered these people's homes, zip tied them, and robbed them. So you mean to tell me you want to give people with masks who do not need to identify themselves, you want to give them guns, dress them in military uniform, and no one's allowed to question them, or you're going to label them as a felon? You're going to give them the mindset that I can do whatever I want to these people. Hold on. You wouldn't be happening to be trying to incite a civil war, are you? This does not end well for anybody. If anything, this is more practice and trial runs for when they call on the Insurrection Act. I can't believe he's telling the people that are committing felonies that if anyone tries to stop you from committing this felony, they are committing a felony. Is this what you wanted, MAGA? Did you want to live in a world full of misinformation and lies, deceit, hate? What happens when it's you or your family member? Then what? What, then we all need to work together? You voted for this, right? So what's going to happen when the ICE Nazis start to shoot Americans? I'm just wondering, who's going to pay the price for that? Because only one person would be responsible for any single act of that happening. Let's just hope it doesn't get too far to where ICE starts shooting people. But Trump did announce yesterday that we are going to kill people until they're like dead. Here's the guys that were posing as ICE agents, by the way.
Lorenzo.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
How can I help you?
Got a search warrant.
What is it for?
We got a search warrant. Search warrant right here. Open up. Everybody on the ground. Go. Let's go. Go. How many people in the house? Go.
It's my mom, my kids, everybody.
Once again, they zip-tied these people and stole their phones and wallets. And if you're asking why they didn't steal more, it's because somebody called the cops or at least informed that the cops were on the way. So they fled with their phones and wallets. Hey, Stephen Miller just announced to the United States they have federal immunity and can do whatever they want with masks on and don't have to identify themselves. You can be an ICE agent too. Just cover your face and pepper spray somebody in the face. Don't actually do that. That's not okay. Don't you find it so crazy that while our country is up in flames, Trump is building a gilded, golden ballroom for him and his rich friends to have a blast in? That's all he talks about, how rich he is and how great his ballroom's gonna be. What happened to helping out the farmers? Or is that another ploy too, so your rich friends can buy up their farmlands? And I mean, when you're 79 with billions of dollars, how much do you need? How much more do you actually need to where you're willing to destroy your own country for profit? What failed in your development as a man that makes you want to take from people who have nothing? But I guess it's hard to not have everything you want in life when you were already born into it, and all you saw as a child was other billionaires doing the same. But I guess when your whole life is a lie, all you know how to do is tell lies. Because here's Trump on camera saying Canada cheated. How did another country cheat you? What are they cheating in? He said it was an AI voice. No, Donald Trump, it was Ronald Reagan. When you're surrounded by unqualified loyalists, I guess your reality gets distorted a little too. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
I don't know. They cheated on a commercial. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and they said he didn't. And I guess it was AI or something. They cheated badly. Canada got caught cheating on a commercial. Can you believe it?
How do you cheat on a commercial? You mean the same way you cheated on your wives? I think we have different definitions of cheating. I guess telling the truth is now cheating. But Trump wouldn't know anything about that now, would he? And now Trump is plotting his revenge against Canada, saying that they're playing dirty and he can play dirtier. What does that even mean, Mudman? Please tell us.
Ontario said it's going to pull that Reagan tariff ad from this Monday, but it's airing it during his first two World Series games. Well, you know, it's a crooked ad. I heard he's airing it. Canada, that's why I pulled everything. With Canada, they did a crooked ad. They knew it was Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. What they did is really dishonest. And I heard they were pulling the ad. I didn't know they were putting it on a little bit more. They could have pulled it tonight. They're going to pull it Monday. Well, that's dirty playing, but I can play dirtier than they can, you know? It's not on the Australian. Really, very dishonest.
I want to remind you that this is a president. This is supposed to be America's standing leader. And he's not worried about Americans. He's worried about a Canada ad. He's worried about his image and the way he looks. Because there's nothing a narcissist hates more than when you hold a mirror to them and say, I see you. And just tonight, there was another mass shooting that we'll probably never hear about if they fit the typical description. If they're trans, it'll be plastered everywhere on the 0.11% chance. This is just a stark reminder that midterms are so important, because that is when we can put an end to all of this. And that is what Donald Trump is trying to stop. He is going to want to try to scare people from voting, and he is going to do whatever he can to remain where he is, because they know this is it for them. So when midterms come, America knows what to do. And lastly, release the Epstein files, Donald Trump. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please make sure to have a great day. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.